Okay, in this video, we're going to upload some ISOs. Now, let's talk in general about moving big files around when we're using virtual machines. It's it's not a good idea to push large files from a virtual machine or pull large files into a virtual machine. So what can we do? We really only have one physical box that we have access to, and that's the ESXi server. So we're gonna leverage the ESXi server with a little hack to increase the performance of pulling down these large files. Because if you've ever pulled down, say, a Windows 10 ISO to a virtual machine, one, you might run out of disk space, and two, it's extraordinarily slow and sometimes it times out. Same holds true for pushing files up from from a from a virtual machine. So I'll show you a quick hack on how to do that. This is going to involve a system in my office called Devon Jump. Right? This is my jump box, and what I'm doing is I'm running a Python web server over port 8000, and the address to this box, and it'll be in your document, is 192.168.3.120. If you have issues getting to the ISOs, it's probably because, I don't know, I turned the service off or rebooted my box or something. Just let me know. Send me an email, and I'll sort that out. Hopefully you'll have all the ISOs pulled down in the first couple of weeks. You won't have to worry about it again. Okay, let's take a look at the first. We're going to take a look at the data stores. So we're gonna make sure that the data stores are configured appropriately, right? And we're going to add a new data store if we have that second hard drive. We're going to enable SSH, right? So we can SSH into our ESXi server, and the reason we're doing that is so we can pull down. We can do a wget from ESXi to my web server and pull down these large files directly into the data store that we're going to create. All right, you ready? All right, tie your shoelaces. Here we go. Make sure you got your tech journal up and going, and make sure to pause the video and catch up where you need to. All right. So let's take a look at storage. So right now I have one data store. Now, when we're on cyber.local, right, and we have 16 hosts, the default data store is going to be data store one for all those hosts. So you're going to see this data store repeated. So I considered it a good practice to go in and rename them. So this is data store one on super one, right? And then I have that second hard drive, and I believe all of you do. If you're missing a hard drive, let me know. We'll install a new one for you. I'm going to do a new data store. I'll select next. And look, it's recognized that second Micron disk, right? So I'll go ahead and, let's give it a name. We'll call it, what was the default again? Hold on. Oh, I think it's data store 2, yes, super 1. Okay, that's going to be the data store. Next, finish. Sure. Okay, and you can take a look at the relative size of these. SSD is always great. What I'm going to do is so this hard drive right here, ESXi is installed. I'm going to pick the other one, and I'm going to go ahead and do a data store browser. And I'm going to create a directory on data store 2 so I can find it later. I'm going to call it ISOs. Okay, now my next job is to pull, right, those a BIOS ISO and Xubuntu ISO into this directory, and I'm going to do that via SSH. All right, so back to the host, and then if you go to Actions, and let me see here, the UI has changed a little bit. Services, I'm going to enable Secure Shell. And it'll complain, right? But we're doing this for a good purpose, right? And then we can always disable it afterwards, right? So SSH is enabled because it's necessary for administrative purposes, right? I'm going to go ahead and SSH to my I wonder if I can ping super one. Oh yeah. So SSH root at super one, and I'll log in. Now, what we want to do is we need to find that data store, right, in this OS. So let's see if I can do that. CD data storage. I don't know. Data store two ISOs. Okay, so VMFS volumes data store two super one ISOs, and you can see I get this strange directory. So there's a symbolic link somewhere. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to hunt down the ISO I want. So I want 192.168.3.120:8000. The ISO that I want is this one right here. So I'm going to copy the link. And let's see if we have wget. Look at that. So this performance is insanely fast compared to doing it through a virtual machine. Okay, let's grab Xubuntu. Copy link address. All right. Oh, wget, Devin. Okay, I'm pulling it down. Let's pause the video. Now, this later next week or in 2 weeks, we're going to need this one, this VCSA. This is a monster, right? So download that sometime, on your own over the weekend, and you'll see new ISOs showing up here. For instance, we'll have probably a Rocky ISO, we'll have a Server 2019 ISO, and probably a Windows 10, maybe even a Windows 11 ISO in here to play with. All right, so we've got that installed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to deal with creating a virtual switch. This is like a virtual network in VMware Workstation. So a virtual switch and related port group. And this is going to be used to create our own WAN, just like you have in some of our courses. We have a 10.0.17.2 address, right? That's the course WAN. We're going to have something similar here. All right. So let's go back to Super, and we're going to look at networking now. Let's pop into there. Okay, so let's go to virtual switches, and we're going to create we're going to add a new standard virtual switch. So let's do that, and I'm going to call it 480 WAN, and I'm going to actually remove. So we don't need an uplink. Right? The uplink is going to be handled through a VIOS box, so we don't need that. And that's it. So go ahead, let's add that. Super 480 WAN is added. All right. And the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add what's called a port group. What's a port group? We'll look at this default switch really quickly, and these are port groups. So VM network, that port group, if you stick a VM in there, will share the physical adapter and grab, it's like a bridge network, right? It'll grab an IP address from your physical network, and the same holds true for the management network. This is just a mechanism to essentially apply policy to different V switches and port groups. And as you can see here, we have a 192.168.7.11 address. This is our management port that we're coming in on. So let's go back and let's go back to that other networking switch that we just added, 480 WAN. Look at it; it has no port groups, right? So let's fix that. So let's go to port groups, and we'll create a new port group, and we're going to call this one 480 WAN 2. 480 WAN. They're different object types. And then the switch we're going to pick to add it to is 40 WAN. And we'll add that. And now what we can do is we can go to 40 WAN. And as you can see here, we have this, we have no physical adapters. That's fine. Let's look at the switch itself. Yeah. Yep. And this is correct. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to tie a ViOS box with an ETH0 interface on VM network and an ETH1 interface on 40 WAN. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install and configure a firewall, but that's another video. I'll see you in that next video.